Hey, and welcome to Open, the show opening the Bronx and the rest of the world to you. I'm Brittany Skyler covering for Darren Jaime, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our borough and New York City. Coming up, February is American Heart Month, and we'll learn tips and advice on why you should keep your heart healthy. After that, we'll highlight an incredible event dedicated to empowering women and providing them with an opportunity for healing and transformation. Then we'll talk about the ongoing efforts to empower New York City's Yemeni American community and highlight the significant role they play in the city's cultural and economic landscape. Finally, we'll discuss how one Medicaid waiver program is helping ensure Medicaid members have access to these essential services, as well as their new initiative aimed at promoting partnerships to advance health equity. So stay tuned, all this and much more is headed your way because we're now officially open. Hey everyone, I'm Brittany Skyler, and you're now watching Open, a program bringing the Bronx and New York City straight to you. Don't forget to stay connected with us via social media at BronxNet TV. Some things have been going on throughout this past week. Let's take you through it with some Bronx updates. Let's start with community news. The Bronx Borough President held a winter coat giveaway, distributing more than 600 coats and canned goods to community members. Our BronxNet reporter, Jonathan Calixto, has more details.
As the cold temperatures continue in the Bronx, residents have something cozy to look forward to today. Happening right behind me is a winter coat giveaway happening here at Bronx Borough Hall.
We were waiting an hour, but it was worth it. The coats are very good quality.
Damira and her son Ezra were two of many community members waiting in line for an extra layer of heat at a time where some are not just concerned about the weather, but also high prices.
People work and sometimes they don't make enough money, so sometimes they need resources and help like this. So even for them to have sweaters and socks, extra is a blessing.
Some people that don't have it are unfortunate, like they could get it now because they're giving it out. And they're giving out food, Arizonas.
This is a great thing that happens for the community and for the youth that we deal with.
Handing out the coats were Bronxites and longtime volunteers like Meraris, who has been a part of the coat giveaways since 2019.
Realmente es algo bien lindo como ellos se sorprenden, los gestos de ellos, la sonrisa. Realmente es algo que vale la pena realmente.
The event had over 600 coats donated to residents and shared other winter essentials for families like canned foods. Reporting for BronxNet, Jonathan Calixto.
Thanks, Jonathan. In other news, New York State Governor Kathy Hochul visited the Bronx, stopping at different organizations to unveil her budget proposals for 2025. Our BronxNet reporter, Kyrie Moody, has the story.
Governor Kathy Hochul toured the Bronx, making 3 stops at different organizations to announce her budgeting proposals for 2025. We were able to catch her on her second and third visit at St. Barnabas Hospital and Rain Senior Center. She announced millions of dollars to both organizations.
Announcing $140 million for this institution. This is part of a safety net transformation and part of a program we announced last year to really look at where the needs are the greatest from the community and make sure that the facility that serves them no longer has their own needs. We're going to do $1,000 for young families, young kids, to cover the diapers and all they outgrow the clothes every 3 months. You see little kids' clothes? 3 to 6 months, 6 to 9 months. That's because they keep growing, right? The formula, the diapers.
Local officials such as Senator Louis Sepúlveda, Assemblymember George Alvarez, Senator Jamal T. Bailey, and Councilmember Kevin C. Riley joined the visit.
I want to thank you again, Governor Hochul. I got a little emotional when I heard about the grant. It was something that we worked, so I started representing the district, redistricting about 3 years ago. I'm entering my second term now.
This investment will enable San Barnabas Hospital to expand its emergency services, upgrade medical equipment and infrastructure, and increase its capacity to serve more than 77,000 patients and their family who visit its emergency department each year.
Well, it's amazing that we all of us as elected officials understand that CBOs like RAIN, centers like the Boston RAIN Center on Boston Road and Eastchester Center are really important spaces for our seniors to engage with each other.
When our governor comes to show love, most importantly when her budget shows love to our seniors, it's really important. And so when you have a governor who really is invested and really cares, and that's clear about the way that she was received, we saw the love.
Governor Hochul, along with the elected officials, hope that these new budget proposals will help reshape the quality of life here in the Bronx. Reporting for BronxNet, Kyrie Moody.
Thanks, Kyrie. That's all for the Bronx updates. We have to take a quick break, but we'll have more open when we return.
We're gonna start the show right now. This is my favorite part. Ready in 5, 4, 3, 2. Hey, this is Angel, and I am one of the instructors for the in-studio production. Here at BronxNet, we offer classes that can help you elevate, expand, and start your television career. All you have to do is sign up at bronxnet.org/education. For the past 7 years, I have been in various productions, spanning from talk shows, independent films, news reports, art displays, teachings, musical performances, and many more. Ain't that right, Angel? Yeah, you're absolutely right, Angel. There are a lot of creative individuals that we're just waiting to sign up for the class. And if I may, can I also express thank you, Angel. That's all the time we have left. Visit bronxnet.org/education and become a producer by taking the course. The class I offer is also in English, en español y también bilingüe. Nos vemos en la próxima clase.
Welcome back. February is American Heart Month, which is a great time to remind us all how important our heart health is and what we can do to prevent heart disease. As the City Department of Health recently found, the Bronx has a particularly high rate of heart disease compared to other boroughs, making it a concerning public health challenge for our community. Joining us now is the Education Manager at VNS Health, Ray Talerico. Ray, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So February is American Heart Month. Tell us why it is such a crucial time now to spread awareness about heart health, especially in our community.
Sure. Well, unfortunately, heart disease is really prevalent, as you mentioned, in this community, and across racial and ethnic groups, for both men and women, heart disease is the #1 killer. So, we notice that it's something that a lot of us can relate to, right, in our families, in our communities. And so being educated about it, really knowing what that means for you and your family and what your risk factors are is really, really important. And so some of the risk factors we think about when we talk about heart disease are high blood pressure, high cholesterol, obesity, lack of physical activity, and smoking. And just those first two, high blood pressure and high cholesterol, people don't always know that they have it. You don't necessarily feel it. So high blood pressure is sometimes referred to as a silent killer, because unless you're getting frequent checks, unless you're going to all your medical appointments, it's really easy to not know that this is a problem for you. So some people can be walking around with this. I think 47% of Americans have high blood pressure, and most people don't know it. So being aware, knowing that this is a problem is the first step to addressing it.
You know, I think you kind of just touched on that, because I do want to talk about, you know, the New York City Health Department found that the Bronx has a high rate of health disease. Why do you think that our borough is so impacted by this?
Sure, you know, at VNS Health, one of the things we like to talk about and our nurses communicate with patients is that we like to look at all the social determinants of health, you know, and that is access to healthy food, making sure people have access to transportation to get to their appointments, making sure that there's health literacy, so people know what to look for in their diet to make sure that they're addressing heart disease, or that they're knowing what to do to prevent heart disease, right? So it's really a combination of all of these factors. You know, it's not just about you in a room with your medical provider. It's about like taking a more holistic view of what it means to be healthy.
And you mentioned that certain groups, at the top of the interview, you mentioned that certain groups are more vulnerable to heart disease, including men, women, people with diabetes, and smokers. Why exactly are these groups at higher risk?
Sure. So for people with, for smoking, we know smoking is a risk factor for worsening heart disease, and diabetes is as well. And so there are things that we can do. You know, when we talk about risk factors, there are things that are not modifiable, right? So as we age, more people are likely to get high blood pressure or heart disease. We can't really do anything about that.
Right.
Sometimes there's a strong family history, a genetic component. We can't really do anything about that. But we know things that are modifiable risk factors, right? So those are the things like smoking, right? Smoking causes damage to our vessels, really at the cellular level, at a very, you know, at the microvascular level, and you know, increasing CO2. All of these things work to damage our hearts. And same thing with diabetes. Persistent high sugars really damage us at the level of the muscle of the heart, the level of the arteries. Can lead to plaque buildup. So these are all the things that we can work to change, right? So we can work to make sure that sugars are well controlled. There are a lot of resources to help people stop smoking if you're a smoker. So those are the things we have to focus on.
And aside from, you know, like you mentioned, the actions that you can take yourself, family history also plays a huge role in heart disease. So what are some steps that somebody should take if they have a family history and they find out it runs in their family?
Sure. So I think the first thing is, yes, talking to your family about family history, knowing that maybe, you know, mom or dad have high blood pressure could be a reason for you to go get screened, or high cholesterol. And then also really realizing that when we're talking about health in our families, we tend to eat like our family. We tend to have similar behaviors as our family. You know, if you didn't grow up exercising, you know, getting into those things as an adult can feel like a large challenge. So I think it's identifying that there's probably, you know, given all that we talked about the statistics and how many people this affects, it's a pretty good chance that these issues are affecting your family and also your friends. So talking about it, seeing what has worked for other people, or if, you know, or also making sure to have a shared goal with your family. You know, it's harder to have just one meal for yourself and everybody else is eating something different. So if high blood pressure is an issue for everyone, making sure that everybody's coming together as a family to plan meals, to look at salt content, to really think about, you know, how as a family can we address this for all of us, because it's just easier.
You know, I like that. I like the idea of getting everybody involved, because even if you don't necessarily have these conditions, it still doesn't hurt to eat healthy and to plan and to kind of make that a family thing. And they always say teamwork makes the dream work. So I think that is just a fun way to do so. And it's also, I think, will lead to better results, because like you said, sometimes when you're by yourself, it's a lot harder to see everybody else, you know, sitting on the side and having fun, and you're there like, okay.
Right.
You know?
And connecting with people is good for your heart, right? You know, getting out, you know, if you're trying to exercise more and you're trying to do that by yourself, if it's really cold outside, it's really easy to talk yourself out of it. But if you have someone else who's helping to keep you accountable, someone else that you want to help keep accountable, it helps you just maintain that habit. And that's what it's really about, right? Because we're trying to play the long game when we're talking about heart disease. You know, these habits over time are things that we want to integrate into our lives to help us maintain them over the long haul, right? And so that's about getting more physical activity in, because that's a huge issue. And that could be anything, right? So the recommendation from the American Heart Association is 150 hours a week of physical activity, which when you hear it like that, sounds like a lot of activity. It sounds like a very high number, but you can break that up any way you want. I even say to my patients, you can do 10 minutes of physical activity at a time and break that up throughout the day to make it feel less overwhelming. And you don't have to join a gym. You can, sometimes I say, you know, especially with moms with kids, you know, put the radio on and dance for 10 minutes, right? It's just about getting moving and doing something fun. Also, people can try to take the stairs when they can instead of the elevator. Or I sometimes say I recommend getting off one stop earlier on the subway or one stop earlier on the bus, so you get those steps in. And it's just part of your day, you know. You're integrating it into all parts of your day, so it's not something that you have to think, oh, okay, now I have to, you know, I have to make this extra time to work out. Or it's just integrating it into your day wherever you can in little pieces, and then it becomes a habit over time, so it seems less overwhelming. And taking breaks is also important too, though, especially when you're starting out. You know, we say exercise as tolerated. So when you're starting exercise, you know, start low, go slow, and then over time you're going to notice that you're feeling better, and that's in itself is going to start to be more of an impetus to get you out there and doing it.
See, I like that you mentioned that, because for a lot of people, when you mention this big lifestyle change, that it's like, okay, now you have to get up 3 hours earlier and carve out this time to go to the gym.
Yeah.
It is very easy to fall off the wagon after 1 week of doing so. And that's why we see a lot of times with like the New Year's resolutions, right?
Yeah.
People are doing a complete 180 on their lifestyle. And so these minor modifications do add up in the long run. So I do thank you for sharing that. And, you know, what are some minor diet changes that can be made also to improve heart health?
Sure. A big one is watching salt intake. And that's going to be really tricky because salt is in a lot of our foods, especially if we're eating a lot of processed foods or a lot of takeout. You don't know what's in the food. And so I have sometimes patients who are like, nope, I'm great. I don't add salt to my food. I don't add salt to my plate. And that's great. But if you're getting a lot of your meals prepared or you're eating a lot of takeout, there's already a lot of salt in the food. You don't have to add anything to the plate. And so really trying to cook more and really being mindful about how much salt is going into the food. Because once you see it, it's easier to make some small adjustments over time, right? And we're not saying stop completely. It's small changes, right? And your taste buds will change. It's also just reading labels, being more aware, trying to get more whole grains in your diet, avoiding saturated fats. So trying to avoid things like processed meats, full fat dairy, fried foods, and really trying to integrate more whole grains, oatmeal, fresh fruits and vegetables, beans, nuts. These are all things that we know are good for our hearts.
And I'm reading here, there's one big one I really do want to mention is stress. Stress is a huge contributor. Tell me, what are some ways that people can manage their stress?
Sure. For some people, you know, it's really a personalized approach, right? For some people, connecting with others is, you know, really helps manage their stress. Talking to people on the phone, connecting with your family, connecting with friends. For other people, it's about maybe things that are more mindfulness based, maybe like meditation or quiet time or solitude. For other people, it's really about making sure our sleep is right. You know, sleep, unfortunately, is also if people who are getting less than 7 hours of sleep are more likely to develop heart disease. So really making sure we're talking about sleep hygiene is what we call it. And what our nurses help do is help people understand what are the factors that are maybe getting in the way of them sleeping. And I know a big one for all of us is our phone or our TV, and really controlling our media content right before bed. And that hour before bed, shutting off phones, shutting off any kind of media to help our bodies relax. And that's a really big one. And as you'll notice too, if you're increasing physical activity throughout your day, it makes it easier for you to sleep. And physical activity also has been known to decrease stress levels for folks. So all of those things together really help combat stress, because it's something we all have to deal with.
I definitely have to get rid of that 1 hour scrolling on my phone before I go to bed. That's my favorite. It's
so
like
hard.
You just doom scroll for an hour.
Yes, even calling it doom scroll, it's like reading the worst news right before bed. It's not helping you.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, Ray, thank you so much for sitting down with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
For more information, you can visit the website at health.org. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more Open right after this.
19.7% of Bronxites currently experience food insecurity. Meanwhile, instead of these nice, colorful foods, this is the best food that they have access to. If this sounds like you, there are a bunch of resources to get healthy food for free or cheap. If you want to help, you might consider donating or volunteering in one of these places. Community fridges like this one are all over the city and allow New Yorkers to conveniently donate extra food to people who might need it. Go to this link and find your nearest one. Food banks and pop-up events like these provide millions of healthy meals to families in need. These organizations are distributing meals to Bronxites as we speak and are always accepting donations and volunteers.
Welcome back. The Becoming Her, Done Playing Safe is an empowerment conference inviting women to embark on a powerful journey of self-discovery, shedding the emotional scars left by domestic abuse, trauma, and unhealthy relationships. From insightful speakers to valuable networking opportunities, this conference is set to be a catalyst for change. Here now is the founder and owner of Significant Beings Dance Wellness Studio, Quanilya Byfield, and the founder and owner of Something Untouchable Dance Company, Naima Abdur-Rahman. Good morning. Thank you both so much for joining us today.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
Good morning. For having us.
Absolutely. So to start off, let's talk about, playing safe. Why is it so important to stop playing safe and start fully addressing the wounds caused by trauma and domestic abuse?
It's important because we just have to be able to allow ourselves to heal through these traumas and not stay in that space where it's just causing more hurt than anything. So it's just done playing safe is just more so of just allowing yourself to be present in your own life and put yourself first while, just overcoming these different obstacles.
Very, very, very well said. I'd like to add that I think it's important to I think it's important to rip off the Band-Aid when it comes to just life in general. I think a lot of us women are used to just, taking it with a grain of salt and moving forward rather than addressing what the actual issue is. And I think that this type of conference and event will help us to address it in a way where it's a safe environment, and also in a way where it's not so I get it. The version of ripping a Band-Aid off is like, ouch, right? But the process of healing is the purpose of coming together. So I'm just looking forward to creating an environment where women feel safe with us to do so.
That's amazing. Thank you both so much for sharing. For me, I love the idea of no more playing safe, no more playing small. I think a lot of times as women, you're told to, be small, stay in your place, don't make any noise. So I think it's so important to have groups like yours to spread this message. So in that, can you tell our viewers a little bit about what inspired the theme of No More Band-Aids for this year's conference, and what message do you hope to convey?
So, what inspired this is basically our own personal healing journeys, our own journeys of us just evolving and knowing that, excuse me, knowing that keeping that band-aid on is not, it's only slowing it down. So it's like, let's just go straight at it. Just be head on and just be like, okay, what can I do to help me move forward from whatever trauma has happened instead of just being in that victim mindset and allowing yourself to just bask in all of that and harbor all of those emotions that are not, it doesn't feel good. So we know what it feels like to go through that. So we're like, what if we just help other women at the same time? What if we share our tips and tricks of what we used to help cope and go through whatever we needed to go through? Because at the end of the day, we all have our different storms that may occur. It's just how you manage to go through it and get through it. And at the end of the day, we all have the same result of a rainbow at the end of that storm, because in every event of every storm, whether it's a tornado or a hurricane, whatever the case may be, after the rain, there always is a rainbow. So we just want women, people in general, but in this particular case, women to be able to reach that rainbow and not stay in that fog, in that, the midst of that storm.
Well said again, friend. I gotta give you that. That was really, really good. Um, for me, I'm coming from, we are definitely coming from the same angle. But for me, I'm in touch with a lot of women. Because of my dance company, we deal with a lot of parents, and a lot of students. And I just think that over the years, there has not exactly been a space for them to, possibly express what they're going through, or even think that someone else may be going through the same thing. So I really am looking forward to, like I
Mhm.
said before, just providing the space for, even those parents to feel comfortable enough to say, hey, I'm here, I'm alive, I made it to this day, but this is what I'm going through and I need some help. I need to know that
Yeah.
there are people out there that relate to me, and I need to know what it is that I could possibly do to overcome, whatever it is that I'm experiencing. So just knowing that, just, seeing those parents every day or every other day, depending on their child's schedule with us. Um, I want to be able to give back to them in that way too.
Absolutely. Thank you both so much for sharing.
Yeah.
And
Ooh, yes,
something
right?
something I do want to ask is, many women do struggle with recognizing unhealthy relationship patterns. Can you tell us what are some early warning signs of emotional and physical abuse?
Okay.
Ooh. You gonna go first, friend?
Um, okay. I definitely will give it a shot.
Yeah.
I think that one of the early signs of emotional abuse is recognizing manipulation, right?
Mm.
I think sometimes, like when it first starts, it's a little hard. So I'll give an example of, let's say, like money, right? Let's say you're in a relationship and you find that you may be over providing, right? But you don't notice it at first. It may start off like a favor, and then it continues to be a favor until it's no longer a favor. It's more so like a demand. Okay, we've got to see in the beginning that there's a habit being formed. And sometimes as women, you know it, but you don't want to seem maybe unavailable or harsh or like unkind or something like that. And so you continue to give until it's something that completely blows up in your face, right? Another example of just recognizing uh, something like that is not wanting to be like, you have this feeling inside, right, about how a situation is not being handled correctly, right, but you don't address it head on because you don't exactly know what that feeling is. So like, Hmm. Friend, I'm gonna need your help on this one
I
because I
got
feel
you.
like
I got
yeah.
you, girl. I got you. So, For instance, you can be in a abusive relationship. You can be in a mentally abusive relationship with yourself, where you're telling yourself like, oh, I can't, like you're just beating yourself up on a regular basis. Like you have, let's say you have this big vision of things that you want to do, but yet you're telling yourself like you can't do this. Oh, you're not good enough. Oh, this just, you'll never be. Just telling yourself every negative thing in the world, just repeating what you've heard throughout the years from other people. That's mentally abusing yourself. Allowing being in a workplace where you're unappreciated or you're made to feel less than every single day, no matter what you're doing. Those are signs of being in a very mentally abusive unstable relationship with the workplace. You can be in friendships, family, and with people around people that they just find every reason to have something negative to say or to make you feel less than, or you have to just take the time out. If your gut is telling you that something is wrong, go with it. Believe it, whether it's with yourself, whether it's people on the outside. Believe it, stand on it, and tell yourself like, I deserve better.
Go with your gut.
I deserve so much better. I am worth so much more. And go with your gut. Your gut will never steer you wrong. Your intuition is the first thing always on site, because it's that little voice that's in your head that's telling you something is up. Something is afoot. Just remind yourself, I am enough. I'm worthy. On a regular basis, look at yourself in the mirror and affirm to yourself that there's bigger plans for you, and you will not settle for anything.
Go with your gut is such an amazing message. That is the message of this segment. Go with your gut. And so we spoke about people who may potentially be in these relationships. Let's talk about the family and the friends of these people. So how can they support a loved one who may be experiencing abuse or struggling with past trauma?
I think that
sometimes sorry, baby.
No, it's fine. It's fine. We were starting, and let's go with it, and I will definitely jump in after you.
Okay. So sometimes they just need an ear. Sometimes, like, not everyone has the mental capacity to take on other people, what you have going on in your life. So take a moment and be like, friend, family, whoever the case may be, I want to know, do you have the mental capacity to, just hear me out for a moment, because there's a lot that I'm going through and I just need someone to talk to. If you have the capacity to take on that, be honest and say yes. Or if you don't, say, right now, I'm currently going through my own thing. Right now is not the right time, or whatever the case may be. Or just have that moment where you're sharing that space with each other. Y'all go out to dinner or something and just talk and just vent and just be there. Hug. Sometimes a hug is all you need. A hug. Just that embrace. Because a hug could do a lot. A hug will ignite so much emotion in one person. So just being present. Just being present.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, we are short of time, but I do want to thank you both so much for sitting down with us in this short amount of time. We covered so much, and I think both of your perspectives were very, very insightful. So thank you so much for sitting down with us.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate you guys.
For having us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
For more information, you can visit their website at becomingher.mycanva.site. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more Open right after this.
What's up, creative family? Discover your voice with BronxNet Community Media classes. Are you ready to bring your ideas to life? At BronxNet, we offer television production classes for community members ages 18 and over, empowering you to share your vision with the world. Get certified in field production, in-studio production, and our new exciting addition, podcast production. Once certified, you can create your own show to air on one of our 6 TV channels. It all starts with our free Unleash Your Ideas Masterclass, designed to help you plan your show idea and set you up for success on your production journey. This class is offered at the beginning of each month for your convenience. Our dedicated BronxNet team is here to support, encourage, and uplift you every step of the way. Join us and become a part of the creative force that engages and inspires the Bronx community and beyond. Sign up today and start your media journey with BronxNet. Visit bronxnet.org/education to learn more and register. Let's create something amazing together.
Welcome back. From organizing one of the most impactful protests in 2017 to advocating for vital humanitarian and educational program, our next guest has made significant strides in connecting different communities and addressing crucial international issues. Joining us now is the president of the Yemeni American group, Zaid Nagi. Thank you so much for sitting down with us.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the great work that you guys doing here.
Thank you so much. Just to start off our interview, can you tell us a little bit about your journey and what led you to become an advocate for the Yemeni American community here in New York City?
Well, I am your typical immigrant. My dad was an immigrant, and I come from Yemen. At the age of 12, my dad was here in the States, and my mom was very frustrated that he didn't build us a home. So at that early age, she was always in our head, well, you can't play until your dad build a home, you can't do this, you can't do this. So we pushed our dad to bring us here. At the age of 14, I came to the United States in hope of building my mom that home, which eventually we did. But that's the story that's my story, which is very similar to a lot of the stories of the Yemeni American community immigrant story and many immigrants. Now, how we started into advocacy, I'm a merchant, the son of a merchant. All my brothers are merchants. My uncles, everybody is a merchant in our community. And 2017, we were demonized as a community. We were presented to the world as those demons that need to be kept away. When President Trump in his first term presented the executive order, the travel ban. So in communities like mine, there are the people who still operate with the mentality that comes from back home, and you are the people who operate with the mentality of our current home. And a lot of times those worlds, they don't, they're two different worlds. And I'm one of those individuals who are in the center. So when we saw the wrong committed against our community, I felt like, okay, we're a community that we have our ups, we have our downs, we have our positive, we have our negatives, but we are not those that this executive order is presenting us to the world to be. So I felt an obligation, being that I understand both sides of the story or both sides of the world, to come and correct that. So an idea of the bodega strike showed up. Yes, we're merchants. We create jobs. We're the people who present you coffee in the morning and make you deli. We're not those demons that this executive order is making us to be. That's how I entered the advocacy world.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Tell us a little bit about that strike that you helped organize, and tell me also what impact did that have, moving forward on the community's involvement in activism.
It's the turning point of our community. Before that, we used to think we operate under the system in Yemen, where nothing works. We're involved in politics. We're telling you stories. We're having interviews like this is a liability. It could bring apart a lot of issues. After that, the community really realized, no, we're under a different system. In this particular system, if the system actually works, if you come and show and tell your story, there's a lot to gain, and we have not stopped since then. Now, the idea of the bodega strike is this. The executive order told the world that you need to keep Yemenis from America because they're terrorists, because they're violence, because this and this and this. Many of the narrative that was set. We needed to show our face. Before then, we were relying on other forces to come and talk about us. But at that particular moment, we needed to show ourselves. So an idea came of, we're merchants. We serve thousands of, hundreds of thousands of in the city alone, and we do exist around the country. And we say, let's show our faces. The idea was to close at 12 o'clock in the afternoon and have a little sign to ask our friends, our customers, those people that we've been serving for years, those people we see when they were young and now they're, to come and help us. And I believe it was an amazing day for us. It turned my community from not believing in a system to believing in a system. And we haven't stopped since.
That is amazing. And I think that goes to show the impact of community solidarity and the power that that has. What were some of the challenges when organizing the strike?
The biggest challenges is going against what's in the back minds of Yemeni Americans.
Mm-hmm.
I myself had to stop and go into my store and pray because my mom word, don't go against the system and you're going to get in trouble. The system will be after you. You better hide. You better, that voices that's been installed is part of our programming. So getting Yemeni Americans to believe that in this system, if you show up, you have a lot to gain. That's the biggest. Now, everything else, also people who tend to take advantage of opportunities like this. There's a lot of people who try to help communities, but really, they're the cause. They might be talking about the cause, but they're the cause. I'm sure you've seen a few in your life.
Tell us a little bit about Little Yemen and how in the Bronx has that evolved over the years, and what role do you see it playing in a larger Yemeni American experience?
Little Yemen existent is a result of the war in Yemen. The world is interconnected. So before the war in Yemen, the Yemeni American story is this. You come into America, you work in a bodega, couple years, you gain a little bit of money, you go home, build a home, or you go spend a year, go spend that money, and then come back. Now, when the war occurred, that changed. But it became like, no, now it's not safe for me to travel or to keep my family. So Yemeni Americans start to bringing their family here. And once they did, they needed a place, that looks like them, that understands them, that serves them. And that's how Little Yemen developed. As for the role it plays, I believe that, we Yemeni Americans, yes, we're Yemeni Americans, but most of us, like myself, we're a Bronxite. And there's nothing that will help, that will make me more happy than helping the Bronx. And I believe Little Yemen could become almost like Little Italy, where it could be a tourist destination. We already seen that developing, where every Muslim, every Arab, everyone who's interested in understanding the Yemen story, the Arabic story, the Islamic story, now it's become a must to visit Little Yemen. And I hope that the authorities will see that and help us develop Little Yemen to become what it is. I believe that every Muslim, every tourist that wants to know that world, they don't no longer have to go into Yemen to realize it. They could come into the Bronx a lot safer. They could have the food. They could see the clothes. They could get to understand the people. And that will bring revenue to the Bronx. And we hit a lot of birds in one stone.
That's amazing. Speaking of economics, tell us a little bit about how the Yemeni-owned bodegas shaped the local economy and culture of neighborhoods right here in the Bronx.
Yemen, throughout the years, maybe even decades and centuries, we never have a working government. So when that happened, a byproduct of that is people relying on themselves. And when people start relying on themselves, an entrepreneurial spirit develops. So that's why more than 80% of Yemeni Americans are merchants, and that's why there's approximately close to 10,000 bodegas in the city of New York that are owned by Yemeni Americans because of the entrepreneurial spirit. So when you bring that entrepreneurial spirit into neighborhoods, and the bodega, in my opinion, is the first step of the American dream. Most communities that enter the state, that's where they started. And once that happened, you bring a story into a neighborhood like that, You're willing to open 24 hours because you're still hunting the opportunity you want to be. And also, you bring a different experience into a neighborhood. You bring different food, you bring different style, and that affects a lot. And one of the things, I worked 20 years behind a counter. Yes. And the bodega, in my opinion, is the real community center. Not everybody go into a restaurant. Not everybody go, but everybody goes into the bodega. From the angel of the neighborhood to the criminal, everybody. From the grandma who's suffering to the child that just barely walking, everybody enters the neighborhood. And by doing so, you get to see stories. And we Yemeni Americans are offended. There's 3 movies about barbershop, none about a bodega. So hopefully one day the world from our eyes is told. There's a lot of things, and hopefully we will utilize not only our entrepreneurial spirit, but also our infrastructure to help the greater good. And we could fight crime through the bodega, and we could find, deal with mental health issues. It's all happening in front of us. So
I want to thank you so much today for coming and sharing your story of community involvement and solidarity. And let's get that movie made.
Yes, the script is ready.
Oh, okay.
Yes, The Bodega Man.
Thank you so much again.
You're welcome. Thank you.
For more information, you can visit their website at YemeniAmericanGroup.com. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more Open right after this.
Only 57% of New York City high school students are college ready by their senior year. "55% of high school graduates either have no plans to attend college or are uncertain that they will ever attend. "34% of young adults don't go to college because they can't afford it. Discover what's possible. BronxNet's education programs, internships, and opportunities help engage and inspire Bronx youth and beyond to pursue their passions. Be a part of the BronxNet family. Whether you're interested in our shows, joining a class, or donating to support our mission, visit BronxNet.org to learn more.
Welcome back. Over the past decade, New York's Medicaid program has recognized the significant role health-related social needs play in improving the health and recovery of nearly 7 million members. The state has taken a monumental step forward with the launch of the 1115 New York Health Equity Reform Medicaid Waiver Program. Here to discuss more is the founder and president of Scudder Intervention Services Foundation, Inc., Brett A. Scudder. Brett, thank you so much for joining us today.
Good morning, Brittany. Thank you for having me.
So to start off, can you just explain a little bit about the main objectives of the 1115 NYHER Medicaid waiver and how it aims to improve health equity here in New York?
Well, I think one of the things that we also have to recognize is that the Bronx has had the most health disparities for years, and our Not 62 campaign in the Bronx is to address those health inequities. And so now that Medicaid is now covering things like transportation, food, and other services that are critically needed for New Yorkers, we have to do more in terms of getting people to be aware of the waiver the funding that's available, and the social care network that is run by Somos that covers the entire Bronx. And so, one of the things that we really want to do with this time that we have, Brittany, is to tell providers if you're a CBO or whatever services you're offering, please contact Somos to let them know that you're interested in learning more about the social care network and how you can be part of that because of the funding that's now being allocated for services through the Department of Health.
And how do social care networks function, and what role do they play in addressing health related social needs?
So the Social Care Network is the main organization that was allocated the funding by the Department of Health. So if you are a provider, it's important for you to contact Somos to establish a partnership in that social care network so that you can talk about the services that you're offering, whether food, transportation, social services, whatever services that you're offering. It's important that they know who you are and know of those services because there's a part of the social care network's responsibility to connect people with the appropriate services after they're screened. So after the screening is done for Medicaid members, now that we know what their services are, it's important for us to know who the partners and providers are to connect with those services. And the system that is set up by Somos for the members to be part of will allow network partners to see who the Medicaid recipients are, what services they need, and who is providing the services to fill those needs.
Thank you for sharing that. I think at the top of our interview, you mentioned some of the things that they may cover, but for our viewers, can you tell us a little bit about what health disparities does the waiver seek to reduce, and how does it plan to measure success?
Great question, Brittany. So I think one of the things that we really have to look at first is the fact that we know there are many pre-existing health challenges for residents of the Bronx. And so when we look at what the waiver is and what Medicaid is now covering for the first time in so many years that we've been asking for things like housing assistance, food insecurities, transportation, people who can't get to their appointments, who can't get to the places where services are being offered, that they can get people who are behind on their rent, who are falling behind on their rent for whatever reason. There's money in this initiative to help to bring your rent current as well as to pay ahead for you. But it starts, Brittany, with an assessment. The assessment is done when you contact Somos or you go to Somos website. You fill out that assessment. It will ask questions that are very important to you as a person. And then those questions will give Somos the opportunity to look at the services that you need and then connect you with the providers to do that. The reason why I'm saying this, Brittany, is because when you contact Somos or you do your assessment, you're going to see a much bigger picture here of what this social care network is about and what it will do. And the first important and the most important thing is to connect providers to Somos for the social care network, and then for Medicaid members to talk to whoever you're being provided service, wherever you go in the community or across the borough, you should be talking to those providers about joining their social network so you can get access to a lot of these additional services and resources that are available.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so important because everybody always focuses on the cost of treatment, which is hefty, but there's all of the costs on the back end for the patient and then also for the family members, like you mentioned, food, transportation, all of these things that they start to add up, and treatment alone is extremely expensive. So then when you add in all these other costs, it does become very frustrating. It does become a major burden to deal with. And with that, there's $7.5 million allocated for this initiative over 3 years. How will these funds be distributed across these different programs?
Again, comes down to Somos, who is the primary social network lead that was awarded the funding by the Department of Health. When you contact Somos as a provider, you're going to get what is called a fee schedule. That fee schedule is going to tell you what services are reimbursable. So there are regular services for Medicaid and there are Medicaid managed care members who get the advanced services. The most important thing that we have to look at right now, Brittany, is the fact that the funding that's there right now will fill a lot of critical gaps of what we already know are pre-existing issues. Housing is a very big one for many Bronxites, right? The cost of housing is so expensive. Even if you're living in an apartment or a home that you don't have the right services or tools that you need that will improve your quality of life, this is an opportunity for some of those things to be covered. But you first have to contact your health provider or your service provider and ask them, are you aware of the SCN? And if they are not, impress on them to join Somos Social Care Network so that that conversation of the services and what are offered. Food insecurities, we already know that access to food, access to good food, and the cost of food is very high and is getting higher. So if there is funding available, which there is, we should be doing everything we can to connect people into the social care networks to make sure that they're getting access to the things that will really be beneficial to them. Look at transportation. It's winter, sometimes it snows, sometimes it's so cold, people don't want to go outside. Now there are transportation resources within the waiver to get people to places, not just for food, but let's say you got to get to your doctor's appointment. Let's say you want to go to a pantry. Let's say you want to go to a yoga program or somewhere they're offering some kind of therapy or treatment, whatever that is. There is funding here to cover transportation. I'm not talking public transportation only. We're talking about ride share programs as well. A lot of people right now are struggling because they're behind on their rent. This opportunity is a separate program from a lot of the funding programs that are already there that can tap into and be used to help some of those needs, critical needs.
Yeah, absolutely. For our viewers, tell us a little bit. Let's shift gears and speak about some of the holistic approaches and how the waiver integrates behavioral health with primary care to provide holistic health services.
So look at it this way, Brittany. You're as a whole person, it's not just about your physical health. It's about your mental, your psychological, your environment, the people around you. All those things are what Medicaid is looking at now. Not just your health related issues, but how the social issues, environmental issues adds to you not feeling well, you not being well, whether you're dealing with mental health challenges or pre-existing health challenges. This opportunity now is saying we need to look at the whole person and how those challenges adds to the complications and stressors that people are feeling. And so this is why this is so important, right? Medicaid for the first time is really listening to the realities of what's on the ground and saying, yes, we do agree with you that if we took care of housing, food insecurities, transportation issues, these will help someone to feel better, to be better, and make sure that their health outcomes are better in terms of getting services and access to services.
Absolutely. And just as we wrap up, tell me, what are some of the long-term goals beyond the initial 3-year funding period?
Well, the goal is ultimately to show Medicaid that this worked. This is why it's so important to get people to be connected to the social care networks and for the social care networks to be working. Because at the end of this, we need Medicaid, the State Department of Health, to go back to Medicaid and say, hey, you gave us this money. We did a lot of great work with it, but we need more. We need this to be continued because of the values that we're seeing that is adding to the lives of people. And so, again, the first step is all the providers, whether you're church, food pantry, community-based organization, health community, whatever your role is, what you're doing, please connect with Somos. Let Somos know that you're interested in joining the social care network. Have a conversation with Somos about what the social care network is, what it does, get the fee scale of what services are reimbursable, and then you can know what you can do to serve a lot of the people who are in the areas that you're serving.
Absolutely. Brett, thank you so much for sitting down with us today.
Thank you for having me.
We've come to the end of our show today. I'd like to thank all our guests for joining and you, the viewers, for tuning in. If you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the Recable cast on Optimum Channel 67, Verizon Fios 2133, or watch anytime on the web at BronxNet.org. This wraps up this episode for us. I'm Brittany Skyler. Make sure to keep this channel wide open. Take care.